The morning mist hung low across the Georgia backroads as Danielle Hayes guided her silver sedan along the empty highway, unaware that her life was about to collide with a trap buried deep in silence and uniforms. She wasn't dressed for authority, just a soft gray hoodie, navy jeans, and a low bun. No badge. No entourage. No reason for anyone to notice her. To the world around her, Danielle looked like any other traveler returning from a family visit. She had just spent a rare, quiet weekend outside Washington, surrounded by warm laughter, home-cooked meals, and the joyful chaos of being Aunt Danny to her sister's kids. For 72 hours, she put aside the weight of her position, director of the DEA, and simply lived in the moment. Now, as she drove home alone, with Marvin Gaye humming low on the stereo and the scent of pine filtering through the cracked window, the road ahead felt peaceful. But behind her, something shifted. A police cruiser emerged in the rearview mirror. No sirens. No lights. Just quiet pressure. She slowed slightly. Her speed was legal 43 and a 45. No swerving. No erratic moves. She flicked on her signal and eased toward the shoulder to let them pass. But they didn't. The cruiser stayed behind her, pacing her. Close. Intentional. Then came the lights. Red and blue, flickering softly like a warning whispered in the dark. No rush. No siren. Just a message, pull over. Now. Danielle did. Calmly. Deliberately. She placed both hands on the wheel, stared ahead, and breathed deep. This wasn't her first stop. But something about this one felt different, too quiet, too calculated. Two officers approached. One came to her window. The other flanked the rear of her car, angling his body to see what she couldn't. The one at the window, square-jawed, sun-worn, and already smug, tapped on the glass with 2 fingers. Not impatient. Just expectant. She rolled the window halfway. "Good morning, officer. Is there a reason I was stopped?" Her voice was calm. Steady. The man didn't answer right away. He looked her over like he was trying to place her. Then, with dry indifference, he said, "License and registration." "You were drifting." "I wasn't aware of that, but I'll get what you need," she replied. Her hands moved slowly, glove box, wallet, documents. Every motion precise, familiar. It wasn't fear, it was survival. She knew this routine better than most. And she knew how fast it could turn. She handed him the papers. The second officer leaned in behind the vehicle. And that's when the game changed. "Pop the trunk," the first officer said flatly. Danielle's spine stiffened. She didn't flinch, but the air in the car grew colder. "Is that a lawful order or a request?" she asked. A beat of silence. The officer's jaw clenched. "If you've got nothing to hide, then why the attitude?" Danielle knew what was coming. She didn't know how yet, but she recognized the smell of a setup long before it hit. And this reeked. Danielle didn't move. Not right away. She kept both hands on the steering wheel and took a breath so slow, it barely stirred the air in front of her. Her voice stayed even. "I'm asking to confirm whether your request is lawful. If it is, I'll comply." The officer narrowed his eyes, then gave a smug half-shrug. "Fine. Lawful order. Pop the trunk." Danielle nodded once and reached beneath the dash, pressing the release. The trunk lifted slowly, the soft click breaking the silence like a gunshot. The second officer, younger, more aggressive, walked back and disappeared behind the car. She couldn't see him, but she could feel his presence, too eager, too rehearsed. Seconds passed. Then he returned, holding a small, clear plastic bag filled with white powder. He dangled it in the air like a magician revealing the twist. Well, he said. "Looks like someone forgot to mention their party favors." Danielle stared at the bag. Her heart didn't race. Her hands didn't shake. But in her chest, something steel-hard locked into place. "That wasn't in my trunk," she said evenly. The officer tilted his head, grinning. "You sure?" "I'm absolutely sure." The first officer leaned in through the window. His tone dropped, quieter now, threatening in its confidence. "Lady, this isn't DC. You keep playing smart. You're going to learn real fast that out here, attitude gets you nowhere." Danielle turned her head slowly, her eyes meeting his with deliberate calm. "I know my rights," she said, "and I'm invoking them now. I do not consent to this search, and I request legal representation immediately." The officer scoffed. "Now she wants a lawyer," he muttered, loud enough for his partner to hear. "You hear that, Davis? Got ourselves a legal eagle." The younger cop laughed. A dry, cold sound. Danielle didn't respond. She didn't need to. This wasn't about what was real. It was about what they could make look real. They'd done this before. She could see it in the rhythm of their movements, the confidence in their false narrative, the absence of hesitation. This was a script they had practiced, and they were counting on her being just another nameless face to disappear into the system. But she wasn't. And they were about to find out who they'd just handcuffed. Because Danielle Hayes wasn't just a random target. She was the director of the DEA, and they had just planted federal seized narcotics on the worst possible person. The patrol car doors slammed shut behind her. Danielle sat stiff in the molded back seat, wrists cuffed behind her, the plastic digging into bone. She didn't cry, didn't plead. She just stared straight ahead, still, alert, and calculating. The officers didn't know they'd already lost. At the Pinecrest County Station, she was walked in through the side entrance like contraband. No reading of rights. No logged evidence. Just a quiet performance of control, as if dragging another woman of color into the system was routine. And maybe for them, it was. Until they reached the booking desk. Possession and obstruction, the older officer announced, tossing her ID onto the counter like garbage. The sergeant behind the desk didn't look up at first. Just grabbed the clipboard with lazy fingers and began typing the name, Danielle Hayes. Then he paused. His eyes flicked up to her face. Then back to the screen. He typed again, faster now. Another line. Another clearance check. Suddenly, he straightened, his body language shifting, his face draining of its routine boredom. Hold on, he muttered, now fully engaged. Not to her. Not to the officers. But to himself. His eyes locked on the screen. The color left his cheeks. The system had pinged. A red banner alert. Director. Federal Clearance Level 5. DEA Command Access. For several seconds, no one moved. Then, the sergeant picked up the phone and called an internal line, his voice low, clipped, urgent. Yes. We need containment. Now. The two arresting officers, Davis and Maddox, exchanged confused glances. Danielle said nothing. She just watched them with an unreadable expression. When the sergeant finally spoke, his voice carried weight. Officers. Conference room. Now. The two men hesitated, but something in his tone made them obey. As they left the room, the sergeant turned back to Danielle, his hand shaking slightly as he fumbled for the key. I'm unlocking your cuffs, Director Hayes. She nodded once. Calm. Commanding. I'll need a secure terminal. I'm initiating an internal investigation under DEA authority. As of now, this facility is under federal lockdown. His mouth opened, but no words came. Because in less than 60 seconds, what began as a routine traffic stop had just become the worst mistake of their careers. And the storm was only beginning. The conference room door slammed shut behind officers Davis and Maddox. Inside, the air turned electric with panic. What the hell is going on? Maddox hissed, pacing. Davis pulled at his collar. She didn't look like. How are we supposed to know she was federal? You planted drugs on the director of the DEA, a voice said from the corner. They spun. Special Agent Elijah Morrow had entered silently, flanked by two federal marshals. No greetings. No jokes. Just a laptop under his arm and a look that could freeze boiling water. We have security footage, vehicle GPS logs, and your body mics. Yes, even the ones you thought you disabled, he said, dropping the laptop onto the table and opening it with a flick. We know the routine. This isn't your first time, is it? The two officers fell silent. Danielle, now changed into a clean suit from her overnight go-bag, watched from the adjacent observation room. Arms crossed. Eyes hard. Her presence reminded everyone exactly who was in charge. The command center they'd set up in the station's lower floor buzzed with agents from the DEA's Internal Threat Division. Data poured in case logs, deleted citations, bodycam files, unfiled arrest reports. The local server had been hiding more than just carelessness. It was a vault of abuse. And Danielle was opening it. Cross-check all unauthorized stops in the last 12 months, she ordered. Sort by defendant ethnicity and false charges. Within hours, the pattern was undeniable. Dozens of traffic stops involving young minorities. Drugs or weapons found. Confessions obtained under duress. Body cam footage mysteriously corrupted. And every report routed through a single station supervisor, Captain Roland Vance. Pull everything on Vance, Danielle said. What they found blew the case wide open. Vance wasn't just corrupt, he was operational. A network of bad cops across multiple counties funneled seized narcotics and firearms into a black market loop. Case numbers were recycled. Evidence lockers falsified. All of it disguised behind routine enforcement. And Danielle had just pulled the mask off. She issued a Level 2 federal warrant. Vance's home was raided at dawn, but it was too late. The man was gone. "What's the last ping on his badge?" she asked her tech chief. "An hour ago," he replied, eyes darting across his screen. "Southbound highway, headed toward Florida. Traveling fast." Danielle didn't hesitate. "Alert Homeland. Intercept teams on standby. We're going after him ourselves." Agent Morrow looked up. "You sure you want to be on the ground for this?" She strapped on her service pistol, her voice like steel. "I'm the reason he ran. I'm the one who'll bring him in." Outside, a black SUV roared to life. The chase had begun, and justice, real, unscripted justice, was finally closing in. The sunrise cracked over the Florida horizon as the convoy of black SUVs weaved through the Everglades. Helicopters circled above. Roads were blocked. Marshals were deployed. And at the center of it all, Danielle Hayes rode silently in the front passenger seat, her gaze locked on the road ahead, her hands folded calmly, but her mind sharp as a blade. After 36 hours on the run, Captain Roland Vance's vehicle was finally spotted, abandoned at a gas station near the state line. But he wasn't inside. Danielle already knew where he would go. Not a motel. Not a friend's house. She looked at the map and pointed. "There," she said. "He'll go to the storage unit under his brother's name. He's been hiding evidence for years. That's his fallback." 10 minutes later, the team surrounded the property. Inside, they found Vance, sweaty, paranoid, clutching a duffel bag filled with hard drives, burner phones, and stacks of untraceable cash. He reached for a weapon. Danielle stepped forward. "No more games, Roland," she said, her voice like stone. "You're done." He froze. Recognition flickered in his eyes. The same arrogance from the station, now replaced with something deeper, fear. He dropped the weapon. The marshals moved in. And just like that, the network fell. 1 month later, Washington, D.C., Danielle stood before Congress under the full glare of national media. Her testimony was clear, calm, and brutal. "We uncovered an organized ring of corruption within law enforcement, spanning 5 counties. Dozens of officers abused their power, falsified arrests, and profited from a system meant to protect the public. This was not just misconduct. It was organized crime with badges." She paused. "This will not happen again. We're building a new system, not based on silence, but accountability." The new initiative was called LEMAR, Law Enforcement Monitoring and Accountability Registry. For the first time in history, every disciplinary report, dashcam feed, and use of force review would be independently logged, with oversight from multiple agencies. No more hiding behind malfunctioned body cams. No more invisible patterns of abuse. That night, back home, Danielle stood on her balcony, watching the city lights. Agent Morrow handed her a sealed envelope, final review approval for Lamar. "You did it," he said. She didn't answer at first, just stared out, thoughtful. "No," she finally said. "We did something right. But justice, that's not a finish line. It's a fight. Every day." Inside her home, a news segment replayed her testimony. A young girl, no older than 12, watched beside her mother, wide-eyed. "She looks like me," the girl whispered. That was the point. That's why Danielle fought.